things as possible.
That's understandable.
Especially with the rise. If there was a decline, I could see it, but with the with it keep telling us that it's keep rising. South Carolina still is in one of those danger zones. You don't know who has this and who don't. So
yes, ma'am. Yeah, we'll be talking some more about that during council on next week as a part of my update.
I know I spoke with Miss Yvonne earlier this week, and she said she would be able to join.
Okay.
I don't know whether this the clerk sent out a reminder. I don't know. Do they don't know, they normally don't send out a reminder, do they?
Yes, ma'am, I did send out a reminder.
Okay, there's Miss McBride. That's good. Hello, Dr. Thompson. Hello,
Hi, Ms. Nicholson.
McBride, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good to see your name. I don't know who else is on.
Hi, this is Allison.
Oh, hello, Miss Teresa. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And I need Miss Newton as well. Is Miss Newton there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, good morning. I mean, good afternoon. It is now 1 o'clock, and Miss Newton know how I am. She would be disappointed if I didn't call this meeting to order at 1 o'clock. So
I would.
I don't want to break that at all. I'm gonna take that to my last day in the office. But anyhow, I want to really thank you all for taking the time in your very busy schedule. I see Mr. Manning has joined. Thank you to participate in the Richland Renaissance Ad Hoc Committee today. It's a rainy day, it's a gloomy day, but we are on Zoom, so we all should get perked up. So I want to thank each and every one of you. And at this point, I will call this meeting to order. And I will ask the clerk to determine whether or not we have a quorum. And if so, would you please call the roll, Miss Only?
Yes, ma'am. Dickerson,
Here.
McBride,
Here.
Manning,
Here.
Myers, Newton.
Here.
Okay.
We do have a quorum.
It's determined that we do have a quorum. The first item on this, the third item on the agenda will be the election of a chair. And I will ask for a nomination.
I move, Ms. Dickerson, that you remain. I move for you to be the chair.
I apologize, Ms. Dickerson, may I be recognized?
Yes.
You forgot item 2 to adopt the agenda.
Oh, I did?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Let's adopt the, I need a motion to adopt the agenda. As presented. Do I hear second?
Second.
Second. All Miss Only, all in favor, Miss Only, would you please call the roll for the adoption of the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. Dickerson,
Here, yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Myers, Newton.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so the next item will be the election of chair. I will entertain a motion on that item.
Madam Chair, I move for Joyce Dickerson to be chair.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Properly moved in second. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor, Ms. Only, will you please call the roll to elect Joyce Dickerson as chair of this committee?
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Myers, Newton.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, well, I guess I'm elected for a couple of meetings. Well, thank you so very much. The next item will be item number 4. And 4 has A, B, C, and D. And I'll start with A. And then I will ask, this was a motion that I put in, and it has gone through committee and it's come to this committee through the council. But the fact of the matter is that if you can read it, they were talking about the old antique mall, and the old antique mall is located on Broad River Road, and we're trying to look at beautifying that particular corner. It's right in the hub of the Broad River Road community, and it's right in the hub where, I mean, there's a lot of activity, just a lot of crime and stuff have happened in that area. So the old antique mall will be an ideal spot, we believe, that would be for the magistrate's office, together with a substation for the deputy sheriff department. It is now located on Broad River Road, on Beatty Road, and it is an eyesore, and I would invite anyone to go down on Beatty Road and look at that substation for the sheriff department, as well as the magistrate's office. Is not ADA accessible. I don't know how anyone, including myself, have allowed that to happen for this long time. But we were always trying to include that for the past 3 years to be the magistrate's office joint with the sheriff department. Chief Cowan sent out a letter along with Judge Edmonds to talk about the partnership to bring that together. And so there's also been talk about beautifying that area. We were looking at some, I believe it was CDBG grant money to kind of beautify it. But we were thinking if we spent that much money, and then, the sheriff department will take it over, we were just kind of wondering whether or not that would be the best fit to spend the money for. So I'll ask Mr. Brown and Ms. Allison to help me with that.
Madam Chair, point of order.
Yes.
Before we move forward, actually, no, never mind. I withdraw.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, ma'am. I was going to say, I believe in your packet, the Sheriff's Department, along with the Chief Magistrate, did put items in there to even give some cost estimates, specifically to turn that area into the magistrate's office for, I believe that's Dutch Fork, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Which I understand that magistrate's facility was on the list of facilities that needed to be addressed as one of those magistrate offices that need to be taken care of. And in particular, my understanding that this particular magistrate facility is in poor repair and requires immediate assistance. And this item would, if the council, this committee chooses, then this would be one of the magistrate facilities that the council would ultimately determine whether or not it wanted to use the funding that was approved as a part of the capital improvement plan, which you all did approve. You allocated roughly $8 million towards magistrate facilities. So you do have a financial wherewithal to address this particular old antique mall area. And you see some general numbers that were placed in there by the Sheriff's Department. So I can let Major Polis speak to that. But what I want to share with this group on the call, that if you decide that this is going to be one of those priority areas, you do have funding that you have approved through the capital improvement plan, $8 million to go towards magistrate facilities. We were going to come to the council and say, between the council and the chief magistrate, how do you want to prioritize these facilities? And so if this is something that this committee recognizes as a priority, that would then obviously be a part of the conversation we would have with council to see if that is an agreed upon action, that this facility is one of the top priorities in the magistrate facilities that need to be addressed. And then you would have funds that you would then use to put towards that if that were the case. So I'll stop there, Madam Chair. And I saw Major Polis on, and he may be able to speak to the the numbers that were presented in the packet that were, I believe, estimates that were gathered by the Sheriff's Department. I think it's that chief in there
Madam
too.
Chair.
I'm sorry.
Okay, yes, and I want to thank Mr. Livingston. I saw Chairman Livingston joined us as well. Thank you, Chairman, for being here.
My pleasure.
Ms. Newton, you are recognized.
Thank you. Before we dig into the numbers, one of the challenges that I had as I looked at the agenda for today and looked at the information in my packet was a few items. I felt like I was missing information that I would need to personally take action on these items. And it also feels like, I guess I'm missing context in terms of how this fits into the comprehensive plan for Renaissance, as opposed to pulling each individual item out. But as it results to the old antique mall, it's clear to me from the letter that there are issues with the magistrate's office. I guess what would help me is if I understood what is our usual process for finding locations for the magistrate's office? What was the original intent for this property? I guess I feel like I'm missing a lot of background and I'm acting out of context. So any general information in that regard and how this fits in overall with the Renaissance and what the implications would be for pulling it out separately would be helpful for me.
Anyone, staff would like to address that?
I can attempt to address that. In terms of pulling these items out, Councilmember Newton, these were just simply items that were moved by motions. So I can't speak to the specific intent. I can just say that we're addressing it as the motions that are before us. My understanding in asking about how the magistrate facilities were previously selected, it is my understanding simply that the magistrate or the chief magistrate would identify areas that they thought would be good for their services to be provided. They would then engage with the potential, I guess we have a lot of rental properties right now that we rent from. They would engage with the landowner or the property owner and come up with an agreement that would then come back to council for approval. But that process was all something that was managed by the chief magistrate.
And also, Mr. Brown, that property is owned by Richland County, so they don't have to go out and look for any other locations. That property was, that was the intent of the old antique mall being incorporated into the Renaissance for a magistrate's office. And so this was the intent of that property from the get-go. That was before Judge Edmonds became judge.
That's here.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. McBride, you are recognized.
Well, the naming of the committee, Richland Renaissance Ad Hoc Committee, I think Mr. Chair knows that we sort of, our Mr. Livingston realizes that we sort of went back and forth with it because this happened several years ago. Then we had the Property Management Committee, which included some of the Renaissance issues. So I think that maybe the name might be confusing, but these issues were raised at several different areas with the property management. Many have been vetted through that committee, as well as now being removed back to the Richland Renaissance. So they've been vetted, most of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments on this? Is Judge Edmond on the phone?
No, Chair, like
Mr. Livingston, you are recognized.
regarding the item A that's before us, what I recommend is if we're talking about we've appropriated some of the $8 million for magistrate's office and so forth. My recommendation would we go through the normal process and let staff decide where they need to go, what the resources are, and consider that location too. If that location fits into the $8 million plan, so be it. But let's just do it the normal way we do it with that location in mind, based on whether or not it needs to be utilized for that office, for a magistrate office, and let staff come up with a recommendation.
Okay.
Madam Chair, this is Chakisse Newton. Two things. I think that Judge Edmonds did not receive the the invite information for this meeting and maybe trying to get that so that he can connect and provide information. So if there's somebody that might be able to share that information with Judge Edmond, I just wanted to, yeah.
Madam Chairperson, John Thompson, may I be recognized?
Yes, sir, Dr. Thompson, you recognize?
I just shared the information, just got off the phone with him. He's going to be joining momentarily.
Okay.
Perfect.
Are there,
Madam Chair, may I ask a follow-up question to what Mr. Livingston said?
yes.
So Mr. Livingston was echoing part of my question when he said that he thought we should follow the regular process. My question is, what is the regular process? Because I don't know what it is.
And when I said that, I was referring to how we go about selecting magistrate officers and so forth, and how we would now, decide how to spend this $8 million in terms of overall best interest of the county.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. McBride.
Excuse my way to Mr. Livingston. I'm sorry.
I'm finished, thank you.
Okay. The Antique Mall was a part of the Renaissance, so-called Renaissance program. Is that not correct, Madam Chair?
That's my understanding. Yes, ma'am.
And so whenever we have a project come up, like with the example, the Antique Mall, if there are modifications we need to do to that, then we do it at the committee process. And this appears to be part of that committee process. Am I not correct, Madam Chair?
Absolutely.
So I think that it is a part of the process because of the location and all of it, how it's fitted together and the needs of it. So I can see combining them easily because we started out with the Renaissance, so-called Renaissance project and the Antique Mall as a part of that and looking for ways to help develop that. I can say that I support this recommendation because Miss Dickerson, you know that I once lived out in your area many moons ago. And that was a really wonderful growing area. And I understand the concerns of the constituents now. And we definitely need something to help promote that area and bring it back to the standards that it had at one time. And I think that this would be an excellent idea.
Thank you. I noticed Judge Edmond has joined us. Judge Edmonds, would you please add to this and how we got to the point of your selection of the old Antique Mall as a possible site for the magistrate's office, Dutch Fork Magistrate's office, along with Chief Cowan to put that together with a deputy station there. Can you please help me with this?
Good morning, Madam Chairman and Council. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. With these magistrates' offices, especially with Dutch Fork, that location is pretty much a prime location. Those council persons that was here in previous years, we had a magistrate's office not even a mile away from the Antique Mall. And the Beatty Road location has given us so many challenges. And we just feel at that location, and I think Chief Cowan is on as well. And I apologize, I'm just getting the link. But this location, where it's located, right there in front of the Apple Valley location, with regards to putting the magistrate's office in that location, the citizens have an easement, an easy way of going in and out with a traffic light, as well as going in the other direction. But the bottom line of these magistrate's offices, of the worst offices of the 11 district offices we have, Dutch Fork is one of the worst ones we have. If you were to go in that office right now, there's a hole right in the middle of the floor that's torn apart, and citizens are coming in right now that we need more carpet because of the sewage issues we continues to have. We had 2 pending litigations. I'm not sure what the first litigation at, but the most recent litigation because of the stairs that when you enter that Dutch Fork office, as well as the Region 4 of the Rich County Sheriff's Department, you've had citizens default, and they have sued the county because of how poor that location and the problems we continue to have. So the location that we're at right now, that we would like the antique mall, we feel it would be very beneficial to make a law complex with the sheriff's department as well as the magistrate's office there, as well as the crime rate in that area. It would be beneficial to have the sheriff's department there, but the location is perfect. It's right in the middle of the citizens that we serve, those constituents as well for that area. Beta Road is away. It's kind of closed. It's in a location where I didn't choose location. This location was prior to me, but we were choosing these magistrate's offices. We try to put it in a location where it's going to be beneficial for the public to go in and out, but also visible, because 98% of our law clerks are young ladies. And we just think the visibility helps us for us protection of the magistrate's office, but also the citizens regarding choosing that location. It would be best benefit for us as well as the sheriff department to be at that location versus making them, I think it was, I don't know the full details of painting a mural and putting some other things there, but I think that would just more increase the crime rate and the challenges that you already have in that area.
Thank you, Judge Edmonds. Are there any further comments on this particular item?
Madam Chair, let me try.
Madam Chair. Oh.
I'm sorry.
Who was that? Was that
Your committee member? Yes, your committee member.
Ms. Myers, you recognize, and then Mr. Livingston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That wasn't me. I was waiting till that person finished and then I was gonna comment, but thank you. And I apologize for my tardiness. I was in and then booted out and had to get back in.
Okay. I think Mr. Livingston had comments.
Just quick, Madam Chair. Mr. Brown, during the budget process, you made it clear to us that that $8 million that was set aside, it wasn't clear in terms of how that was bond money, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And it wasn't clear in terms of how that bond money was to be spent at that time, other than the fact that you were going to come back with something about the magistrate's office and how to spend it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You had not identified the specific expenses of that money. And all I'm suggesting is you go ahead on through that. Staff knows a whole lot more about magistrate's office and all those kind of things than I do. But my suggestion is staff just go ahead on through that normal process that we're going through. And during that process, if they think this facility is a good or bad facility to fit in that process, recommend using it or not using it. That's all I'm suggesting.
Okay. Ms. Myers, you recognize?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two quick points. First, I'm not clear on how the so-called Renaissance items got on the agenda. But under, and I can save this till later, but with regard to this specific item, I think that the old antique mall was a site that has been sort of bandied about and was selected to be put into the Renaissance project plan, some literally maybe 3 years ago. I would not like to see us starting over from the ground up with vetting so-called sites and starting again and saying now the staff is going to go back and present something to us and bring something back after, because literally you could be 4 years down the road still having this conversation, as we see from where we are now with this, the whole of the plan. So I would suggest that if Judge Edmond is happy with this site and the Sheriff's Department is happy with the site, it was one of the Renaissance sites and the funding is there, I think we ought to be looking at this from the other side of it, which is this an unsuitable site? And are there reasons we should not consider this site rather than starting from the ground up? That's the first point. And the second is, I would like some information later in the meeting, Madam Chair, and I can save this if you tell me I'm out of order, some information as to other matters that were put forward for discussion at this meeting that don't appear on the agenda. and as to where the staff is with their Renaissance plans. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any further discussions on this item?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Newton, you recognized.
I had a question, but I also noticed that Mr. Manning had his hand raised before I did, and so I'm happy to.
Manning, well, I'm sorry, you can't talk, Ms. Newton. I got to go to Mr. Manning. I'm not familiar with how you see the little hands up, but Mr. Manning, you are recognized, and then Ms. Newton, you can follow up. Mr. Manning.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to make a motion that I move that the item here that says I move, being that Councilwoman Dickerson's motion. So I would move that we indeed direct staff to move forward, given all the things that have already been said so far in this discussion.
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Wait, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I'm
sorry.
I still have, no problem. I still have my same questions. And for the record, I'm not opposed to having the magistrate's office in the old antique mall. I'm still just trying to understand how this fits into all the things that we're doing and how this fits into what the priorities are. So my two questions are, this is a two-part motion, so I want to make sure that I understand it. Part one is we do the corridor facade grant program, and then part two is that there's the magistrate's office there, but it says specifically that the magistrate's office should provide a comprehensive proposal for council consideration. So my question would be, I guess of Judge Edmond, is this the number one priority for the magistrate's office? Because obviously the funding for this is going to be based on the priorities for your office. So number one, is this your number one priority? And then number two, if this motion is approved, where it says that you're going to provide a comprehensive proposal, does that mean if we vote yes, that this item essentially stays in committee until you bring that comprehensive proposal, or how does that work? So what's the priority for all the magistrate's office? Is this number one? And then second, how does the comprehensive proposal part of the motion work?
Judge Edmond, you are recognized, and I see Mr. Coble is also on the line. Judge Edmond, you are recognized to answer that question, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regards to the number one priority, I have two magistrate's offices that are really the number one priority, but this is definitely has been a priority for some years. And through Renaissance, as Ms. Myers spoke, it was part of the plan. But this is a cash cow for the county. It is a huge liability by keeping these doors open at that location. So yes, that's a priority. I have other offices at Pontiac and some other offices that are priorities too. But I can only do one thing at a time until we get a plan, working with administration on this. But as of right now, we definitely need to move forward with the Dutch Fork as a priority regarding of all the magistrate's offices, the 5 that we have that need homes.
So that's a yes?
Yes, yeah, this is the number one priority right now.
Okay.
And
then
moving that off.
Thank you. And then in terms of if this motion is passed where it says that the county magistrate's office is going to provide a comprehensive proposal for council consideration, does that mean that this item stays in committee and then that proposal comes to us and is vetted through us here before it goes to full council?
That's left up to Ms. Dickerson, not Ms.
No, the motion that was carried was to approve the item and move it forward, and then we could get all that information can be brought forth through our council meeting. We can send it to, it will go to council. But first of all, I need to carry, the motion has been carried. I just need to find out whether it is approved. So all I need to find out, ask Ms. Only to carry the motion. Ms. Only.
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor.
Ms. Dickerson?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Manning?
No.
Myers?
Yeah.
Newton?
I abstain because I'm still confused.
Motion passes.
The
Madam
motion
Chair,
passes.
may I be recognized, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Manning, you are recognized.
I'm in the exact same place as Councilwoman Newton. I was very unclear. I was surprised to learn that the study would be going to full council, not back to this committee, as the motion's written, and I made it. And that's why I voted no. If my vote should have been abstain, because I didn't understand that clarity, then you can put me down as abstain.
All right, Mr. Manning abstain.
Madam Chair.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
The proposal has already been completed. Is that not true in terms of the magistrate office?
Yeah, Judge Edmonds have submitted that to us, and this is not anything new. We've gone through this. This is about the third time that we have actually dealt with this particular, these items that are on this list. So the motion carries. It can go to full council with a motion to approve, and then we can get any information that we need between then and all of the first and second and third readings. Hopefully we can get it cleared up. The next item on the agenda will be item 4B. I move the Richland County build a new courthouse, and this is from Mr. Manning. Mr. Manning, you are recognized.
Thank you. So for clarity, it's to have Richland County to build a new county courthouse. So hopefully that clarification will be helpful. This was an item the council was working on 10 years ago, had a committee, a courthouse ad hoc committee that was working on getting this done because 10 years ago, county council saw this as a need and priority. That committee, well, I'm not going to tell anybody history. It's all in the record. Thank you.
Okay, so, Ms. McBride, you recognized.
I'm sorry, I was coughing.
Okay, you. Okay, Mr. Brown, will you be able to help us and give us some information, you and Dr. Thomas, on this item for clarity so that we can move it, get a motion on it?
Yes, ma'am. Well,
Madam Chair, may I ask a question, point of order, before Mr. Brown?
You may, Ms. Myers.
So this is why I'm a little confused about this agenda, because we are literally pulling favorite children out of the Renaissance plan and moving on whatever anybody, one particular council member decides to put in as a motion, when in fact, that was exactly why the motion I sent that got derailed somehow by the staff to have the Renaissance plan itself, which was approved by the council, this current council, 11-0, a year ago for action, and has had zero action, to have the entirety of the plan put forward and put out for bid to a third party to complete it. This courthouse is the centerpiece of that plan. And it seems to me that what we're doing here is just picking it apart because the staff just didn't do what a year ago we asked them to do. And I'd like to see a more comprehensive look at what we're doing rather than this piecemeal. Because if what we're doing is just picking out fair-haired children, I mean, I guess I could put mine in too, but I don't know that that gets us where we want to be. So I'd like some understanding of how it is that we're meaning to proceed, Madam Chair. And I apologize for the length of the question, but I'm a little bit confused as to what we're doing.
Well, Ms. Myers, this committee was called because the chair asked me to pull this committee together. That's what I did. We've canceled it a couple of times based on a lack of information. And so once we were able to put forward an agenda from items that came from council, I believe through our chair, that's how this particular committee came about. And the other thing was, you got to understand, we pulled out an EMS that was also a part of this and that we have approved it for the old Burlington Mall. So I think a lot of things need to probably be revisited, but these three, 4 things that are in front of us today, they were a part of, I know it was a part of the original Renaissance, but these items, the courthouse was the center. That committee was canceled because they thought it would blend better into another committee. So that's how the courthouse part came a part of this. So this is where we are. So
Madam Chair,
Mr. Manning, you are recognized.
as a point of clarification, the EMS is now moving into Burlington?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yep, and it was a part of the Renaissance too, if you recall. All right.
Oh, ma'am, that's not my recollection.
It wasn't. I mean, I stand to be corrected because I
It was a part of it.
It was.
I stand to be corrected because I thought we were supposed to have another building. We were supposed to get Value City was supposed to be the original part for this, and then it got changed somehow. Then the Burlington part became, but that EMS was a part of the original, so we pulled that one out already.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. McBride, you recognize.
As I stated initially, there was confusion, or there is confusion, because of everything that went through with the Richland Renaissance. We said it, we tabled it, we brought it back, and then we did the property committee. And so Mr. Manning.
Property Management Committee.
Property Management Committee. And within that, many of the Renaissance items were a part of that property management. And that's where we discussed using the Sears and Burlington facility for the DSS facility and for the emergency call center. And we had a lot of work done on looking at the plans for the development of that. And then Ms. Myers, you chaired that committee. You remember? Ms. Myers, are you still there?
Absolutely. I remember. You're right.
We did
a lot of work. That was kind of
burnout. Did a lot of work. So we did the work on the DSS facility and on the emergency call center. And then this year, I don't know what happened. I don't think we had that committee anymore. And then the Richland Renaissance Committee came. So that's part of some of the confusion, that we've had these issues in several different committees already.
And so we need to get them out, clarify.
We need to move because there are some that are in dire need, Mr. Manning, as you know, of us taking action on. And I, like Ms. Myers or someone said, we'll be here another 4 or 5 years before anything is done. Thank you.
Well, whatever you thought I was doing to slow it down, I'm sorry you got that impression.
No, I'm saying I'm agreeing with you, Mr. Manning.
Madam Chair.
I'm agreeing with you, but with items being on the agenda, unless you weren't.
Ms. Myers,
Madam Chair.
Just to clarify, I do agree with these items being on the agenda. I'm absolutely not trying to slow this process down. I just know that there is money for other items that do not appear on this agenda, and I would not like that money to magically disappear because somehow the staff has not moved those items forward, and that's the concern I'm raising. But I'm happy to move forward on this item. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Okay, Ms. Newton, you recognize.
So I have 2 questions, and one of them you can tell me might not be appropriate, but it's confusing to me. So there was a motion previously that Ms. Myers did to basically reevaluate. I don't want to butcher her language, but to have a comprehensive plan for how we're going to move forward with the Richland Renaissance. For reasons, I don't know why, it looks like that motion went to DNS instead of to the Renaissance Committee. So I don't know why that is, but for me, I support the items that are on this agenda, but to me, it feels like we're pulling them out piecemeal. And I'm the only member on this council who wasn't here when the original Richland Renaissance was planned. So I wasn't part of some of these previous committees that you mentioned, and I don't have that visceral background that you all have, but it feels like to me, we're pulling things out piecemeal, and I want to understand how they fit into the greater whole. And so whether it's we're going to move forward this way with Renaissance or not with this Renaissance, or Renaissance is completely dead and we're piecemealing everything. That's information that I feel like I'm missing. So even though I support a new courthouse, I certainly support a facility that makes sense for DSS. I certainly support that we have the emergency call center. I guess I just want to make sure that I understand how we're moving and that we're moving comprehensively and strategically. So from my perspective, I would like to see us at a higher level say, how are we moving forward with this? What does it mean? How does it impact the rest of the facility plans, the rest of the things that we're doing at Richland County if we build a new courthouse, for example, roof repairs and other things that we're doing at 2020. I need to understand how all these things fit together. So from my perspective, I guess I would offer a substitute motion that we, as council, prioritize how we're going to move forward with the Richland Renaissance and how these things fit in it together before we pull out individual items. So that would be my motion.
Well, Ms. Newton, seems like your motion died for.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I am willing to second that motion for the purpose of discussion, because I do believe that Ms. Newton has raised an issue that, you know, I've been trying to get a little traction on for about 8 months. So I would second that motion for the purpose of discussion.
Okay, the motion has been second. Discussion.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Manning, you're recognized.
Thank you. So that I'm clear, are you saying that the DNS committee on next Thursday has an item on there about the comprehensiveness of the Renaissance plan?
Mr. Manning,
Yes.
I'll let staff answer that. I can't say if it's on next week's agenda, but I can say the motion was sent to DNS instead of to the Renaissance Committee.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. May I be recognized?
Yes, ma'am. Miss Alicia Myers, you recognized.
Thank you. The item that was forwarded to the DNS committee per the instruction of the chair is related specifically to a facility for EOC and EMS, not for the comprehensive plan for the Renaissance.
Okay.
Point of order. Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Miss Dalhi Myers.
No, that's not correct. My motion was sent to DNS and it was on the last agenda and it's been rolling forward for this agenda. It is that very motion that Ms. Newton just spoke on. Yes, ma'am. That is correct, Mr. Manning. It has been sent to DNS.
Okay, will it be, can staff tell me, will that be on the agenda for action next Thursday?
May I be recognized, Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am. Miss Alicia Myers.
The motion specifically was relative to a third-party consultant for the Renaissance agenda. So maybe I misunderstood Ms. Myers when she indicated a comprehensive plan relative to the Renaissance. So I apologize for that misunderstanding. But yes, it will be included as an item for action on the agenda for next week's DNS committee.
So as a maker of the motion, I can explain what the intent was behind the motion, Madam Chair, if I can have a second.
Okay, well, Miss Newton made the motion. You seconded it. Yes, ma'am, you may.
No, I mean the motion that was sent to DNS that we're now discussing.
Okay, you recognized.
So the request was to have, rather than having Renaissance continue to sit and languish, literally a year after it was approved 11-0 for action, that this council vote as to whether or not it wanted to hire a third-party consultant to move the Renaissance plan and items in the plan forward. So I was not requesting that staff go out and get a consultant. I was requesting that this council take a secondary action because its action had been ignored by the staff. And so I was bringing the Renaissance plan back so that we could get some comprehensive action to move it forward. It was not a request to have a third party engaged. It was a request to have the council move Renaissance because it had just been left to languish. And I think that that's what Ms. Newton's request is right now. And that's why I'm in agreement with it.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
we open for discussion?
yes.
Okay. I keep bringing up the Renaissance Ad Hoc Committee and the difference in the Renaissance plan, because the issues that we're discussing now, the majority, if not all, were under the Renaissance plan. But the Renaissance plan is huge. We've got the blight removal part of the Renaissance plan and several other things. Even in some of the committee, in some of our council discussions, we always said, I don't know whether this should be the Renaissance plan or these are components of the Renaissance plan. So I don't think we intended when we had this committee to look at the whole comprehensive Renaissance plan as a part of this, because there are so many different components, and these were essential things that some members thought were important and are raising them. If there were others, they could have been included. So I don't think the intent, because we lost the entire Richland Renaissance plan and we decided to bring it back. I think we were looking at components of it. That's how I interpret it.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Myers.
this is Ms. Newton. I guess
Sorry, Ms. Newton.
to part of my question, I feel like when it was the retreat in 2019 when Richland Renaissance was discussed again, that what was discussed was that we not focus on that massive plan, but instead a scaled back version. But the intent of my motion is that, staff come back to us and we as council say, these are the priorities that we want to pursue for Richland Renaissance. And then as part of those that we address these items or decide that they're standalone, because the way that I understood these programs and plans was that they fit together and that they had implications for other things that we're doing as part of the council, which is why I would feel uncomfortable moving forward on a piecemeal basis without us as a council at least saying, we're going to address Renaissance this way or not at all. It's certainly up to council if they want to scrap it. I just want to act from a comprehensive strategic perspective as opposed to pulling things out separately. So I won't say anything else.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. McBride.
Each of these items have had a comprehensive review, most of them.
Yes.
So I don't find it piecemeal in it. It may not be the comprehensive plan because it's not including the blight removal, but all of these were under one component. And I can't think of the title of that component, but it wasn't under the blight. The blight was under one component and it was another one. So I don't think it's a matter of piecemeal.
Yeah, it was yeah.
And I think that based on the agenda that we all have already approved, we need to move forward. Thank you.
Okay. The item we have, the first, we have a substitute motion on the.
Madam Chair, Mr.
Mr.
Brown, I think Mr. Brown's trying to get recognized.
Okay, but I can't see how your hands are being raised. Mr. Brown, you recognized?
You have your participants list, Madam Chair.
Yeah, but I just see 19 people. I don't see a hand.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair.
Recognized.
Yes, ma'am. I'll try not to be too long-winded. There have been multiple questions asked about how these items made it to the agenda in references to staff's actions taken to put items on this agenda. In terms of process, I simply want to communicate that the items were sent to this committee by the council chair. And as we put this agenda together, the request was made in conversation with the committee chair to put on items on the agenda that were moved appropriately by the council process. So that's why these items are on the agenda.
Absolutely.
And that's all I want to say about that. In terms of the discussion about Richland Renaissance, what I'm hearing is what I've been hearing since I've gotten here. And I still don't have clarity. But when I look back at the minutes that are reflected in February 19, I see specifically it says Mr. Gomo stated they are requesting council to take 3 items out of deferment so they can move forward. It goes on to say Mr. Livingston inquired if this is passed tonight, what are the next steps? And then Mr. Gomo states that the next steps are to develop a program for each one of them by priority and timing and bring them back one at a time so they can be considered.
Absolutely.
The blight would be the first one, 911 moving out of Columbia Place Mall would be the second, and the administration building would be the third. The only reason I bring that up is because as we're having these discussions, and we're talking about council needing to prioritize what orders they want to go in, I absolutely agree with that. But what I'm confused on is when I hear different conversations about what's been approved and what I can find and actually see in the minutes versus conversations that may have taken place that I cannot find a record of. So that would be helpful to me and assist us in developing what steps we need to take to move forward. And in looking at the conversation provided in the minutes by Mr. Gomo communicated that they had been in conversation with a P3 organization, but again, there was no communication in the minutes that council had approved any particular vendor, organization, or given staff authority to engage a third party. The minutes reflect develop a program comes back to council considers the program, council then involves the community, so forth and so on. So that's what I find in the records that I see concerning Richland Renaissance and a vote in February 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for
Madam Chair.
Yes, I have Ms. McBride and then you, Ms. Myers.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for verifying that information, because I knew that there were several components. So I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
Ms. Myers, Ms. Dalhi Myers, you recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. I quite agree with you, Mr. Brown. And I would just say from February, those three big buckets approved in February till now, what's been brought back to this council. And so we land back at what exactly I'm saying, which is we gave specific guidance. That guidance was ignored. So we have those three buckets, and those are not what's on the agenda today. And we have not been presented with information from staff on those three areas. And so we get back to my question of how have we pulled out the things that have been pulled out for today's agenda without looking at even, let's assume that the other things are irrelevant, but even these three things, the blight removal, the 2020 Hampton Street building, which is a big deal. And looking at a courthouse without looking at the 2020 Hampton Street building, I think is a major problem. And so I guess what I'm saying is where's the information from what it is that you say we all concede staff was told to do?
Okay. Ms. McBride, you had your hand.
No, I don't have my hand up, but we are dealing with the administrative component of it, being that the emergency call center and the DSS, all that was a part of the administrative component. But I understand.
But 2020 Hampton Street is a major part.
But all of those others are components of it. I understand what you're saying, but they are a part of the administrative area.
Okay, well, we have two motions on the floor. We have a substitute motion. We have Ms. Newton's motion. Ms. Newton, would you, I would like to add before we take a vote on the substitute motion is that Ms. Newton and both Ms. Newton and Ms. Myers bring up very important components to this whole discussion that I think that they should put in a motion through the motion period so that it can really go through council again if that's necessary to address how we want to proceed going forward from today. I think that you need to start all over and start with some motions and see how we come up with a comprehensive plan. So
Ms. Dickerson, with respect, I did, and that motion got sent somewhere. Okay, sorry.
Well, I don't know where it is, but okay. But anyhow, I take if there are no further comments on the substitute motion, I'm all in favor of the substitute.
What is the substitute motion?
Ms. Newton, would you repeat the substitute motion?
It would be hard for me to repeat it just as I said it before. So let me ask Ms. Only, did you happen to capture that or do you need me to try to say it again?
If you would try to encapsulate what your motion was.
Well, the intent of what I moved that we direct staff to come to us with strategic and comprehensive recommendations for how we will address the whole of Renaissance in terms of what the priorities are that we want to focus on first and what, if any, recommendations there are for items that we want to leave out so that we can move forward comprehensively. So that is my motion. Inarticulately stated, but that's it.
And I think Ms. Myers approved, she approved it, seconded.
Yeah, I'm going to withdraw my second from that motion just because that's already been done and the staff has demonstrated they're not going to do that. Thank you.
Okay, so that motion died at beginning for a lack of a second. So we are back to the original motion. For Mr. Manning, would you repeat the motion? Where are you, Mr. Manning?
I'm right here.
Would you repeat it for me, please?
I move that Richland County build a new county courthouse.
And I don't know who seconded it before, but I'm seconding it because that's very much a priority right now. Okay. So the motion is on the floor. If there's no further discussion on this item, I will ask.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I'm sorry,
ma'am.
very quickly, and I promise I won't say anything on any of the subsequent motions on this agenda. I just wanted said that, again, I support a new courthouse. I certainly support a new facility for DSS and our emergency call center. I will be voting no on this item and subsequent items only because I feel like I need to understand how this fits into our comprehensive plans, both for the Renaissance and for facilities as a whole, as opposed to pulling them out individually. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, all right. Well, all in favor of the original motion, Ms. Only, will you call the roll? And this is this is to build, and that's not saying we're gonna build it next week. We've got to go through a lot of stuff to see how we get it done. So all in favor of the motion, please say, Ms. Only, will you call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Newton.
No.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Next item will be Mr. Manning on item 4C. That was the provisions. Mr. Manning, this is your motion. I'll let you speak to that motion, carry the motion. You muted. You muted.
Thank you. For clarification, the motion is that Richland County provide a minimally adequate facility for the Richland County DSS, that being the Department of Social Services.
And I'm seconding that because let me tell you something. That is one of my big heartbeats that, I mean, I wouldn't send a little puppy to that facility and it really needs to be addressed. So I definitely second that motion with all my heart.
Madam Chair, may I offer a friendly amendment?
Yes.
I guess that's mine too, Ms. Myers.
Okay.
Okay. Just take out the word minimally. I would take out the word minimally and just leave it as adequate if the maker of the motion would accept that.
Mr. Manning, would you accept the friendly amendment to that motion?
Oh, absolutely. I'd even be glad to take out the word adequate.
Okay.
Take that out.
Take it out. Build a facility. All right.
A lot facility.
All right. I second that. Any discussion on this item?
Madam Chair, just want to inform you that unfortunately I have to leave for a 2:00 meeting.
Yeah, we'll be through in 1 minute. Don't worry.
Thank you.
All in favor? Ms. Only, will you call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Most definitely. I've been praying for this.
Manning,
One
Yeah.
step closer.
Myers,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Newton.
I abstain.
Okay, thank you. Next item will be D. We got like 2 minutes to do this one. It's moved that we provide a suitable facility for the emergency call center. Mr. Manning, I think you can run through that real quick. I think we're already in that process. So would you go ahead and with the motion?
Yes, ma'am. I received some clarification that apparently this was already taken up by council in the spring and an RFP has been written or being written to
RFP, right.
that happens. So given that, I'd say we just keep this in committee for further information, a status that it moves along.
I think if we need to keep it in committee for further status, that would be fine. Or either you can move it and let them bring it to full council so that we can know, so the full council will know.
No,
We already voted on it.
I'm happy to leave it here.
Okay, all right. Okay, would I get a second on that motion?
I'll second it because we've already passed it.
Okay, all right, so motion second. All in favor, if there are no further discussion, we got 1 minute. All in favor, Miss Only, will you call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Okay,
Motion passes.
all right, thank you. If there are no other items, do we have any other items in 1 minute?
No, ma'am.
Move
Okay,
to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Miss Only, will you call a roll for adjournment?
Yes, ma'am. Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Manning, Myers.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank
Well,
all.
I vote yes too for the record, Miss Only.
Okay. Well,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
all of you for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. The discussion is very good, and I hope we can finally get some clarity on this whole thing so we can see Richland County flourish. That's what I live for. So I may not be around to see all of the continued votes, but I do hope we are making some first steps. And thank you so very much. And you all have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Ms. Dickerson.